Had the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G, what a name, for the past few days, and it's been pretty exceptional. I'm going to talk to you about my experience with it so far, and if you stick around to the end, I'm also going to give you my thoughts about it compared to the regular Galaxy S20, the more premium brother to this device. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. A few days later with the Galaxy S20 5G, a quick spec refresh. If you don't remember, a 6.5-inch Super AMOLED display on the front here. This is a 1080p panel. We do have a triple camera on the rear, 12 megapixel plus 12 megapixel plus 8 megapixel on the back there, 6 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 865, 4500 milliamp hour battery. Those are the key specs to refresh you on there. Now, I'm going to begin by talking about a few days later with the body and the design of this phone. What I really like about this phone's body is that for a cheaper price, you're actually getting a bigger screen. Now, for some people, that's a con. A lot of people are liking these smaller displays these days. But for me, I really do like that you're getting, for a cheaper price than the regular S20, a bigger screen. It seems like better value, in my opinion. The body also does have aluminum around the edges, which feels nice. And I was fooled into thinking this was like a glass. It felt very similar to the back of like an 11 Pro Max, to be honest with you, or a Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. It felt very similar to that. So there's no feeling of cheap with this Cloud Red edition as well as the other ones. And I do like this Cloud Red. I think it really does pop. You might not like it, but I definitely do. And you have different colors that you can choose from. So that makes it really nice. So overall, I gotta say though, over the past couple of days, it's not the smallest device though. So I think the reach up to the top, you might actually drop this phone because the back is kind of slick with that feel. Although it doesn't attract fingerprints, which I do love, this does seem to slip out of my hand a little bit. So I have been using a case, one I don't recommend by the way, but I've been using this case Samsung included. This it's like a kickstand case. It's pretty cheap though, to be honest. Every time I prop it up, that kickstand just falls right off. So this is not a case I recommend, but if you can find a case for this thing, definitely pick one up. I think this will drop out of your hands if you don't. Same time, I wouldn't pick this one up if I was you. Also, the first day, the case got like scratches just from putting the phone inside of there. So not the best quality in my opinion. Design to me is not something I would call ultra sleek. It's just a very functional, practical design with nice popping colors. That's how I would define this design so far. It does have more of a rectangle feel, a little bit less of a curvature. So if you do like phones that are more, circular on the edges, this one's a little bit more rectangle. So do keep that in mind. Next, I want to talk about that in-display fingerprint sensor. A few days later, I found it to be pretty excellent. Actually, it's just as good as the one, in my opinion, on the regular S20. So no complaints there a few days later using this device. I've been very happy with its overall performance. Talking about the display with the Galaxy S20 FE, what I will state is that this phone does get plenty bright. And if you put it into its really high brightness mode, you can see this outside pretty easily. So no big qualms there. Also, the dynamic AMOLED, the Super AMOLED, it seems like it's kind of just marketing because honestly, I couldn't see a major difference besides the fact that the one on the S20 and the Note 20, they just have a sharper resolution, but overall, they both have very vibrant colors. I kept this thing in the vivid mode, so you can go to display. And what I like about this is you still get that motion smoothness of 120 hertz on this panel. And man, I put it on the 60 hertz and I was like, no way, sirree. I'm going right back to the high mode. I just cannot deal with that 60 hertz, especially considering how much laggier it looks or how much like choppier it looks. Not laggy, choppier is a better term. So it was always on 120 hertz. I don't care about the battery hit. You can see right here, natural also makes the colors on this phone just look dull by comparison to vivid. So I always had it on vivid as well. But if you're not a fan of that ultra saturated look, I think you'll really like the natural mode on this phone. Browsing the web was also fantastic. Due to this just being a larger phone, I felt like I had plenty of space to browse while it not being too large. At 6.5 inches, it's really reaching the limits. Our phone's going to 6.97 inch size. I mean, that's just ridiculous. This one right here, it feels like a big phone at the limit, giving you plenty of space to browse, but not feeling like it's like overly large like an Ultra phone. I also found this punch hole to be very small, which I did like, didn't really distract me at all. I barely ever looked at it. I like how small they made that punch hole. And when watching videos on this phone, one area where you can see a little bit of something on this phone is the bottom. There's a tiny bit of a chin here, but up at the top, it seems even thinner at the top. And that punch hole, again, just really doesn't get in the way of your content at all. Really did love watching video on here. And with the OLED screen, you get some very popping colors in video, especially if you're watching content that has a lot of color saturation. Now, I'm briefly going to talk about the software because I'll cover that more in the full review that's coming. But this Galaxy S20 FE feels identical to using a Galaxy S20 Ultra, a Galaxy S20, a Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, unless you're using the pen. But at the end of the day, this phone right here is a through and through Samsung experience. You have all the Samsung services. It's a flagship. You have pretty much everything you would want from a Samsung phone. If you go to advanced features, you still get plenty of those things like you would see in other ones, one-handed modes. You get things like motions and gestures right here, so you can see plenty you can do with this phone. Again, there's no pen like on a Note series phone, so if you want a pen, you might want a Note FE, but honestly, this one right here, software can rotate into landscape. You can go theme it out to your heart's content. You have all those same multitasking features. A lot of people talk about, oh, you can do a quick dual window on some of these other phones. You can do that on the Galaxy S20 FE as well. You can just tap that. That's something they talk about a lot with the new Surface Duo, but you could do that on basically any Samsung phone. Yes, it doesn't have two separate screens giving you a very nice productive experience, but that feature is across the board on the Samsung devices. So you can just split the screen, have two apps at once really easily on this phone. Overall, the software, it's Samsung. Customize it to your heart content. Theme it out the way you want. You have to deal with Bixby. I don't like Bixby, but you may like it. You have Google Assistant, Google Apps, and Microsoft Apps on top of it. So there is a little bit more clutter in the phone, but it gives you every feature in the kitchen sink, and the Galaxy S20 FE is no different. And a few days later with the processor, I really wanted to pay attention to this to see, is there a major difference between this and the S20? And I didn't find a major difference in processing performance with the Snapdragon 865. This thing flew through everything. Right now, I do have it on 0.5x for faster animations. I just noticed one thing. The 6 gigs of RAM will have an app reload from time to time if you have a lot open. Like right there, I just kind of reloaded some of that stuff on Instagram. You barely notice this though. I mean, still though, it kind of reminds me of the SE with 3 gigs of RAM. This one will reload if you have a ton of apps open, but it's not really going to mess up your experience. Overall, it keeps a lot of them open, and there's no real lag or stutter with the performance. So 865 is a champ in this phone. I also did get Xbox Game Pass and that Moga controller with this, and I did try out some of the games. The performance with the games on this thing was fantastic. The phone didn't get too hot, and it was able to play this Xbox Game Pass cloud gaming like a champ. So yes, this phone has enough power to run your favorite titles. And one thing I didn't even think about much was storage. Over the past few days, 93 gigs available. I didn't even look at it. I knew I had enough space without even looking. So I was not scared about storage at all. And I expanded the memory in here up to 256 gigs more. So I was not worried at all about storage. And a few days later with the camera. Again, I'm not going to give all of the content here. I'm going to save that for the review, as I'm going to go out today and get even more photo samples. But let's just put it this way. The front facing camera is pretty decent. It does look a little bit washed out indoor lighting, but outside it looks fantastic. And I've been getting some pretty solid photos from this camera. I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of those now. So as you can see right here, it's a picture of my G-Shock. This thing, just really good detail, even up close here on photos. So in good lighting, I've been seeing really good results, and it does have a night mode for dark lighting as well. You can see just really good saturation. Again, I will show these things on full screen in the full review as I'm still putting together all my samples. But the zoom, man, the zoom with good lighting, I was seeing fantastic results. I mean, this little tower was not close by, and you could just see the level of detail that I got on this photo. I mean, not a lot of noise. So yes, you can zoom in pretty darn far on the Galaxy S20 FE. So far, video and camera quality have been exceptional in my past few days. Now, the audio in the past few days was pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's the best on any phone, but with Dolby Atmos, it's plenty loud of this device. So this is an important phone. There are phones that are louder, but I didn't think much about it just because it was fine for what I needed it for. So I don't have a major complaint with the audio on this phone. No headphone jack. You can get a Samsung A71, for example, with a headphone jack if you do need that. So there's options, but this one doesn't have headphone jack. Few days later, with the battery life, I got a state. It's still, learning my usage patterns, but so far, I'm seeing like 6 to 7 hours screen time, 4,500 milliamp hour battery in here, 1080p display. The battery is great in usage. Just like most Samsung phones, I am having idling issues. Like it does drain more than other phones when just idling. So do keep that in mind. But I was impressed that for the price, you're still getting the fast wireless charging. I thought that's something Samsung might have omitted at this price point of $699. OnePlus has done this before. So I thought that Samsung might have did that, but they didn't. They gave you wireless charging, which is a thumbs up, fast wireless charging as well, which is another thumbs up, and a fast charger in the box. This thing was charging at rapid speeds, so I had no issues. So my final thoughts on the Galaxy S20 FE after a few days. It's a well-rounded machine right here. It's one of Samsung's best phones, I think, right now. And I don't think you need something like an S20 Ultra. I don't think you need a fold phone if you don't like those folding devices. Yeah, they're a luxury, they're nice, but this phone is giving you everything you need in 2020 from a Samsung smartphone. I think most people would be totally fine with this for the next couple of years, 3 years. There's just everything you need here. And again, I didn't mention the flat screen. You don't have those curved issues when you're putting on a screen protector. You can barely get it on there because it's bubbling on the corners. You know, this is just a great overall device. Now, let me talk about, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, comparisons to the S20. At first, I said in the unboxing, why would you buy an S20 when the S20 FE is this darn good? And I started to analyze and look closer at the two devices. You can tell that the S20 is a little bit more premium. It's giving you a lot of screen and a very sleek body. And yes, the display is a little bit curved on the edges, but you can just tell. Look at the bezels, so much thinner. The engineering on this phone just looks a little bit more premium. Yes, the back is glass. This is not glass on the back. So that's another premium touch that gives this phone a little bit of a higher end feel. And the cameras, they can do a little bit more 8K video recording. So, and lastly, I will mention that on the S20, again, I'm going to fully compare these. This is just kind of a quick overview of what I've learned. This one right here can do up to WQHD plus res. So, I mean, I always had it in the full HD anyway because I like the 120 hertz. But the S20 does have a few things over it that can justify it for people who just want the ultra premium of Samsung devices. A few days later, pretty happy. Again, this is not my full review. I'm going to do a more comprehensive review soon on this phone. I wanted to give you my update, full thoughts after a few days. That's them, but stay tuned for the full camera stuff. That'll be in the full review, as well as more details on the battery life with this phone and a little bit more in depth on the device. But so far, so good. I still recommend it if you guys are looking for a Samsung device at a cheaper price right now. Do a trade-in, get your discount. You're good to go. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section of this video. If you found it helpful, entertaining, and informative, click the like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.